Hello, welcome back to Dumb Thumbs FPV. So today's video is the Eachine Tyro69, and the story behind this product is that Banggood got a hold of me and they wanted me to start doing reviews for them again. And I told them that's fine. I'm not going to shill. I'm not going to sock puppet. Look, guys, this channel is not monetized. This is an extension of my hobby. It's basically my expectations versus what what reality is. Okay, my expectations, my reality, and that's all a review is. It's just to share experiences and different products with you, and maybe you'll learn something. And that's really what this channel is. So it's not sock puppeting. It's not about selling you anything. I'm not a salesman. And if I was, I'd probably starve to death. Luckily, I just work on electric motors, and that's why my hands are all beat up. And that's also why I'm dumb thumbs. These things have been, surgically done billion times over. This is all metal right here. So that's why the channel is called Dumb Thumbs. My thumbs don't work like yours does. Anyway. So they say, well, pick out some products. So I did. I picked out some products that I know I would like and I know you would like. And then they sent me this. And I'm like, please don't send this to me. And the reason why I said that is because I was ill-informed. I thought this was using plastic standoffs between the components. And I thought, as soon as a person hits a tree, it's just going to explode. So I went out and I bought this right here. I bought a bunch of little screws because I was going to replace the plastic standoffs with screws and plastic tubing between the components. Well, when I opened the box, lo and behold, they had metal screws. So there was no plastic standoffs. It was metal screws. And instead of plastic tubing, they used rubber tubing. So, that's even better. So there you go. So that's the first thing that shocked me about the product. The other thing that kind of shocked me about the product is I figured this frame would be like spaghetti. I mean, it's $69, guys. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, my last quadcopter, this build right here, was just Toma Quad. These motors, okay, were 40 bucks just for the motors. $69, you're getting a lot more than just motors here. So, I mean, that last quadcopter I just showed you, I added up all the parts that I used on it. It came to like $179. This is 69 bucks. So I wasn't expecting the frame to be what it is, and what it is freaking stiff. I mean, holy cow, is this thing stiff? I was actually amazed by how stiff this was. That's the first thing I did. How much deflection? I was expecting like this thing was just going to go bloop, bloop, bloop back and forth, and it didn't. So that was shocking to me. The other thing that was shocking to me is I wasn't expecting much for motors. And like I said, I rewind electric motors for a living, and I was really surprised on the quality of the windings here. So, there's a thing called mud winding. What mud winding is where you just put wire in a slot. You don't care where it ends up. You don't care how it looks or anything like that. And on your cheaper motors, it's the same way. They don't line them up real nice. They don't reel them real nice. They just kind of cake them on there. Well, these are all done really nice. And the bearings feel good on it. The overall quality of the motors look good. There's no balancing putty, but there was no balancing putty on the Emax Freestyle. And there was none on the Skystar motors that I used on the Toma Quad Slingshot either. So maybe they just don't use balancing putty on these small motors. I don't know. It does have stiffer wires. Instead of the nice silicon wires, they use this stiff stuff. But guys, this is the same stuff, the same exact wire that the Emax Freestyle used. It's the same stiffness, so I don't know. Anyway, I was kind of surprised by that. They're not overly coggy. You're not going to get a lot of vibrations into the frame, but I think they're going to be strong enough. They're 1204 motors, 1104, 8500 kV. So that should be plenty of power there. And that's kind of what they were shooting for. I guess the all-up weight was supposed to be something like 46 grams. We'll find out. So right there, I was already, okay, so it's not that bad. I mean, for $69, I would be happy with what I got there so far. You also get a 4-in-1 20 amp ESC. So it doesn't come with conformal coating on it, and we are heading into fall. So with the moisture in the air and the whirling props, you could end up with a little static electricity. It's not unusual for some of these boards to come with no conformal coating on them whatsoever. I noticed on the nameless RC, was it 410T or whatever, that last one I did on the last review, it also did not have any conformal coating, but the Beta FPV one did. So whatever. So what I did on this is I just grabbed my conformal coating. This is enough to last you probably to pass down to your children. And I went ahead and painted it. It only takes like 10 minutes to dry, so I painted one side and painted the other, making sure to stay away from this plug. The thing about conformal coating, it kind of spreads. So try to stay away from your plugs. And if you end up doing an FC, stay away from your USB. I made this mistake. Stay away from the USB, and especially stay away from this thing, the boot button, because you end up gluing it shut where it doesn't work anymore. And I actually made a mistake on a very expensive FC from Hobbywing doing that. So anyway, so that's what you get. This is an F4 flight controller. You get a 25 milliwatt VTX and I guess a 1200 line camera. We'll find out how good these are. Well, I want to see if this camera is better than the one that comes with the Freestyle, the Emax Freestyle. I'm kind of curious about that. For this build, I'm going to be using this here. This is just the XM Plus. I believe Banggood had them on there for $17, but don't quote me on that because Banggood always has coupons. They always have sales and promotions and stuff, so prices are going to vary. And it also came with 5 sets of props. I was expecting 2. So there's I got more than I expected. The battery strap here is one of these chintzy battery straps, or you think it was chintzy, but look. There. I think that's plenty strong. So I normally don't like these because I had a bad experience with the one that came with the full speed toothpick. But lo and behold, this one from GEP RC, this came with the Phantom kit that also sold by Banggood, by the way. I used this on the Toma Quad slingshot, and the entire day I was crashing, wrecking, got stuck in a tree. This thing never failed one time. My battery never came off the quadcopter, never even slid on the quadcopter. So I'm starting to get sold on these. These things are extraordinarily light, and they're pretty damn strong, and they do hold well. So they hold a lot better than I thought they were going to hold. So you get one of those. That's kind of nice. Oh, and you get all your plugs. You get everything it takes to build this quadcopter. This is going to be a very simple, quick build. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build it, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I did. And then I'm going to fly it. I'm going to tune it. I'm going to share the tune with you while I'm doing the flight videos. And then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so we're back here with the final build. This is the way I did it. You can do it however you want to. So a couple of things here. The motor wires are stiff. So I was wondering why that was. And I got curious because I was looking at the end of the motor wires, the motor leads, and I noticed it wasn't stranded wire. So it got me kind of curious on that. And so I cut one of them open, and sure enough, just as I assumed, what they did to lower the manufacturing costs of this motor, and it makes total sense. In fact, big industrial motors do this as well, and so do a lot of generators, especially for the excitement winding. What they did is they took the wire that winds the motor and they just brought it straight out. So there's no actual connection here. You're not having a solder right here. Like the Emax motor, I thought it was the same kind of wire. It's not. Emax just used cheap wire. And then what they did is they did the connections here for their motor leads, a stranded wire, and then they try to glue it to the wire that makes up the coils, and it didn't work. I actually ended up breaking one if you go back on my review. So I don't mind this at all. This is actually really good. It does make a stiffer wire as opposed to a silicon wire, and we'll get to that in a second. It is Y connected, YWYE. That's an electrical term, so it's a Y connected motor. And then each one of these motor leads actually contain 2 wires apiece inside the wrapping. And that's just from the coils there. So that's how that's done. So for those of you who never built a quadcopter, which I think this is kind of governed towards, is you try to get people to build quadcopters, because to me that's 50% of the fun. I love building quadcopters. I love modifying them and so on and so forth. Anybody who's watched this channel knows that. So here's what you want to do. You want to pre-tin all of your ESC pads, and I did it on top and bottom because I wasn't sure where I was going to put the motor wires. And then here's how I mounted the motors. So this is that picture right here. And then when you fold it over and you connect it to the frame, it makes it really nice. So there's nothing hanging off the side here, okay? So it's nice and protected underneath the ESC. You just have to really work it because it is a stiffer wire. And when you try to push down the FC using these rubber tubing, the rubber tubing that goes over the screw, it kind of wants to make it crooked. And you got to really just work it and get the motor leads out of the tubing and the whole 9 yards, and just take your time to do it, and that way it's done right. But what I did to try to solve that, so that the ESCs would end up straight on the frame, and also to create more of a space between the ESC and the FC, is I went down to Ace Hardware and I got 4 nuts, and I used 4 nuts, one on each corner of the ESC, and I was able to squish down the lower rubber tubing here, and then put rubber tubing on top of each nut and create more of that space that I needed, because there's no real good place to put a receiver. And so what I did with that is I just put it between the FC and the ESCs, and right here I just bound it and I shrink wrapped it and I put it nicely inside here. So that's how I addressed that. So it's a nice tight build. Some guys who build quadcopters are going to say, well, now you're going to introduce vibrations into your FC. Well, guys, you're going to do that anyway. There's metal screws going through here. So so it's going to go from the motor, the vibration will go from the motor through the frame, through the metal screws, and, you know, into the FC anyway. That's why we have filtering. The excess antenna wires, I just folded up and I put it between the TPU mount and the FC. And then to run the antennas for the RX out, I just used 2 zip ties, one here and one here, locked them in on the corner. I kept the square part of it and I just made it so it locks in on the corners right here. Okay. And then I just used 2 zip ties on each one of them, one below the FC, one above the FC. And I just ran up the wire and I just shrink wrapped it. You just want to make sure that these are at a 90-degree angle from one another. They're supposed to be 90-degree angle. So that's how I addressed that. I also made sure I toilet tanked the battery. And the reason I did that is to make sure that, number one, I could put the battery balance lead, kind of hide it underneath here. And then this way too, I can zip tie the battery leads. You want to make sure the battery leads are zip tied, because otherwise it just pull right off the pad if you get in a wreck. If your battery gets loose, it'll just it could pull the pads right off the ESCs, and then you're in trouble. So that's what I did with that. The VTX. So the VTX antenna was just hanging loose. So I took another zip tie, I ran it down here underneath the VTX through the TPU mount, right here like this, and then I just shrink wrapped this, heat shrink wrapped, and then I also shrink wrapped it right here, so that is part of the TPU mount, as you can see. So the TPU mount here, and shrink wrapped it there, and that made it nice and a little bit more solid and stuff, so it doesn't get ripped off in a crash. The VTX wire, so they don't give you much wire for the VTX in the camera that comes off the VTX, and so what you have to do is, the camera wires are actually on the side. You would normally think the camera wires would be on the top of the camera, like RunCam or Cadex, but it's not. It's actually off to the side. And, you know, when I originally had the camera wires on the top of the camera like you would normally do, it was really loose inside here. But once I plugged it into my goggles, I'm like, okay, it's 180 degrees off. So I turned it 180 degrees, and it fits in here very, very nice and snug. There's a little shelf space right here on the TPU mount just for the camera. And so it's extremely strong now. It's really in there and really nicely done. The VTX and the camera wires, because they're short, they should be about 3 millimeters longer. You have to kind of run them on this side of the camera wires that go from the camera to the VTX. And then the VTX and the camera wires come off the VTX, and you push them off the side here, and that way you can run them down underneath the TPU mount, and you just barely have enough to plug in your camera and your VTX here. Okay? So that's pretty much it. That's the build, guys. It's very, very simple. Oh, yeah, also to the plug. So the plug between the wire harness between the VTX and the FC had a little bit of excess, and these props do come real close to all this stuff. You can see here. So I just tucked that in nicely underneath here. So it's nice and tucked in. I just wanted to make sure everything was very, very tucked in. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to tune it on 3S and 2S. I'm not really sure. This is only 3S batteries I have for these little 300 happy models. I don't even know if they're really that good. Okay, so the first video here is out in Milwaukee Station. I like this because it's pretty, it's fun to be out there. This is around 6:30 at night. This is actually pretty much the maiden flight, you know, because before that I did fly it once at home, and I had a bee land on my arm, and I immediately threw off my goggles, slapped the bee, and next thing I know, I can hear the quadcopter pile drive into the top of the roof of the house, and then tumble off the roof of the house onto the patio table and land on the concrete patio. And I'm thinking this thing's broke. But no, it didn't. It didn't break at all. You can see here the contrast. You can see the sharpness at 6:30 at night, and it's got some cloud cover here. It's really, really, it's really a nice, it's not a bad camera. It's a lot better than the Emax Freestyle, I can tell you that. So that tree right there on the right that we just passed by, that's the Douglas fir of doom right here. So let's talk about the reception. Guys, they say this is 25 milliwatts. There's no way in hell this is 25 milliwatts. I fly this park all the time with 200 milliwatts. And even my the last two videos I've done, the Emax Freestyle and the Toma Quad slingshot, I used the TBS Nano in them, the Unify Nano, and I had them set at 100. This thing outperforms that. So yeah, and if you don't believe me, go back to those videos. There's no way this is 25 milliwatts. This is 200 milliwatts. It has to be 200 milliwatts. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to set up my, and boom, right there in the tree. I was trying to set up my rates. So that cost me 2 hours. My wife and I went down there. I had to go buy a trim stick, a 16-foot trim piece from Home Depot, plus the 12-foot ladder to get it out of there. And it took a couple hours. Thank God for my wife, because she was actually the one who found it. I couldn't even see as I was sitting there poking in the tree. I'm showing you the wind here. So I went out to the School of Deaf and Blind here. This is not one of my favorite spots. And you can see the quadcopter, how it's tilted. Yeah, that's because that's how much wind is pushing on the quadcopter right now. And I'm showing you the tree there. So I'm flying in the wind once again. I love Great Falls, Montana. So I think they said around 12 to 15 mile an hour winds, 20 mile an hour gusts. I did get it finally tuned in here, but I'm dealing with wind, whatever. I'm still having a ball though. And the reason why is these motors are extremely efficient and they're really, really powerful for what they are. This thing flies like a dream. I think it's got Betaflight 3.57 on it. So you're not having to mess around with Betaflight 4.0 and flyaways and all that other kind of crap like I had to do on the last review. This is great. I think 3.57 is perfect for micros. So it was easy to set up, pretty much a stock tune. I did play a little bit around with the derivative, probably because of the wind. I'm tuning in the wind and stuff, and a little bit of the P, but not much. My 3S batteries are toast. I don't know why. I've only got a couple flights on them, so I couldn't do 3S, but I don't need 3S. I mean, look at this. This is on a 450 2S pack. Plenty of power, plenty of punch, plenty of efficiency, lots of fun. Why is it so much more fun? Because it's only $69. That's why. I can't believe this. There's almost $200 worth of parts sitting in the Emax Freestyle mod that I did. There's $170 some sitting in the Toma Quad slingshot that I just got done doing. This is $69 plus whatever the receiver is. So I don't know. I mean, this thing is just, it really shocked me. Not too many products that I get actually shock me. It normally goes back to that adage, you get what you pay for. And I thought that's exactly what this was going to be. But no, it's extremely durable. I didn't break anything on this. I didn't even bend a prop on this thing. And I've wrecked it, I don't know. I got about 30 packs into it now. And I haven't broken anything on it. So I don't know. I think this thing's awesome. I really honestly do. I don't know. I can't believe they can push this stuff out for $69. That's insane. So I decided to go ahead and use the wind to my advantage here. I'm just trying to, like right there, that dip, I'm dipping down because the wind is pushing it. And I'm trying to power loop that leafy tree back there. And so what I did is I decided to start using the wind to my advantage because it was blowing me off course like by quite a bit. And then I had to do over corrections and stuff. You can see I'm correcting everywhere, trying to keep this thing on target. But I mean, look at the flight times I'm getting. I mean, I'm doing lots and lots of punch outs. The 450 packs, the G&B 450 2S packs, I'm getting a little over 5 minutes. And that's not slow flying. That's punching it out and just, doing whatever, doing how I normally do out in the parks and stuff. Lots of power loops, lots of punch outs. Just, cruising around, having fun. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. I cannot believe this is only $69. That's just insane. It's so insane. It kind of tells you the markup of this stuff. Now I'm finally hitting low battery. And I was a little shocked right here, so I kind of slowed down because I'm thinking, is maybe this thing is not calibrated correctly? No, it's calibrated correctly. I just can't believe the flight time. I mean, a little over 5 minutes, and I'm, and that's at 350 a pack. So at resting, it was like 385, I think it was. So on here, I decided just to use the wind against me, or wind for me. I decided just to sail with the wind. So I'm trying to power loop this tree, and you can see it just pushes me right off target. So I'm like, okay. And then I go back around. I like power looping. I don't know why. I like doing it. It's just fun to do. I like surfing the edges of those trees too and shooting down this corridor. So on this one here, I went up and then I corrected it right there last minute. So I corrected it, got underneath. And then the one coming up, I thought, you know what, if I just start on the other side of the tree and then use the wind when I cut down the throttle, I'll end up on the other side of the tree. I'll just do that. And so the rest of the afternoon, that's pretty much what I was doing. I was using the wind in my favor because it was a constant wind. I mean, constantly, just windy all damn day. So here you go. I go up and I go back. Guys, I love this product. If you like this review, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Have yourself a great day. Buy this product.